Alright, hello my friends, and welcome to Baldur's Gate 3. Before I begin, a couple quick words on how this playthrough is going to work. This is an Ironman playthrough, which means that if a character dies, we need to resurrect them using a Revivify scroll or other resurrection option, or they stay dead. If I fail a skill check, I just fail it, there's no re-rolling. And if the entire party wipes, the entire run is over. This will be a heavily optimization-focused, heavily explained playthrough by someone with more than 20 years of Dungeons & Dragons experience and character optimization knowledge under my belt. So, while we will, of course, be engaging with the awesome storyline of this game, the primary focus here is going to be on the strategy. Without any further ado, let's begin. Obviously, we're selecting Tactician Mode. Many spooky things are happening. I also would not want to walk on that surface. Ah, the Mind Flayers have an Amazon smart home. That's a good question. All right, obviously we're not going to reset the tutorials. So, if you watched my previous video where I went through what I believe the best character to select for Baldur's Gate 3 is, I'm going to be using that character build. So the build we're going with is going to be a Githyanki Sorcerer. Let's take a quick look at our spell selection. So, obviously I want the best spell in the game, Minor Illusion. I want Mage Hand. Even though the Githyanki gets Mage Hand once a day, I find you often use this multiple times a day. The great thing about Mage Hand is that enemies will actually go after it. They don't consider it less threatening than other summons, so you can get them to waste an attack chasing down your Mage Hand. For a cantrip, that's extremely powerful. We'll also take Firebolt, because it's nice to have an attack option when we don't have anything better to do on our turn. And for the final cantrip, I'm going to select Blade Ward. It's possible that I want Friends, but I think Blade Ward is going to serve us the best here. Mostly because if there are two enemy factions fighting and we aren't involved in the combat, we can buff one of them with Blade Ward and then help the faction that we want to win have a huge advantage. Blade Ward is incredibly powerful, but very bad action economy, so it's really nice to be able to have that option available when you don't have to care about your action economy. For our level 1 spells, we definitely want Shield. We don't need Mage Armor because we have Medium Armor proficiency due to being a Githyanki. And for our final level 1 spell, I'm going to select Sleep. Sleep is great because it has no save, and so in the very early game, this can instantly end encounters in your favor. Even on Tactician Mode, where enemies get HP buffs, a lot of the more dangerous enemies will be fewer than 24 hit points, and sleep can be extremely powerful. We will later in the game swap out sleep for a different spell. I will be a Storm Sorcerer, which allows you to fly after casting a spell as a bonus action, and since it doesn't trigger attacks of opportunity to do this, this is an incredibly powerful mobility skill. And finally, for our background, I want to make sure that we have at least 1 or 2 of the charisma skills, so of the conversation skills. So let me go through and see which ones we can grab here. Just going to remove all of these for now. So Deception and Sleight of Hand is interesting because then we can use our main character for our Sleight of Hand needs. We'll have decent dexterity, so this is a pretty good setup. We could get Deception and Stealth. Acrobatics, not particularly useful in this game. Resisting being shoved is not incredibly relevant for most encounters. You will get shoved, but unless you position yourself next to a hazard, you won't be in any trouble from that. Definitely not Folk Hero. Insight and Persuasion is 2 of the skills that we want, so this one looks pretty good. Yep, I think we're going with Guild Artisan. That will give us Insight and Persuasion both. And then we can spend our last 2 in Arcana. And you probably don't need both Persuasion and Deception usually. But I'm going to take it because I like it a little more than Intimidation. Then let's fix our stats here. Take everything down to 8, except for our 3 main stats, and then we'll bring those back up as we go. So we can do Dexterity. So what if we actually did 16, 16, and then a 14, and then we can spend 2 points on Charisma. There is an option to get a single point of ability boost later in the game, but I don't want to rely on that. So contrary to what I actually said in my build guide, I think this is a slightly better starting stat spread because you get to start with a little more HP. And then finally, we're going to leave Strength at 8. Intelligence I would boost, but we will get access to an item that will set our intelligence to a decent value pretty early. So we should be able to dump intelligence for the beginning of the game, and that gives us enough stats in Wisdom. On the other hand, we could, to make our Insight decent, on the other hand, we could just do 10 and 10, and then reset these stats when we acquire that item. Let's actually go with that. Because you can reconfigure your starting stat spread later on in the game, which Dungeons & Dragons usually doesn't let you do, this build will, I think, be a little bit easier to manage this way than trying to optimize for later on in the game and what we might find later on. Alright, next up, let's do some appearance modification. So I'm going to random a little bit just to get a base that I like to work with. I kind of like this one. It's a neat tattoo. In this sort of bonus episode 0, we're going to be focusing primarily on character creation and discussing how the playthrough is going to work. I certainly don't blame anyone who wants to skip ahead to the next episode when we'll get into the gameplay. But if you like character creation in these types of games, we're going to do it. Alright, so let's do our voice first.
Where to next?
What was that?
Let's hope the locals are...
Hells. Be wary. It's opened. More of those wretched things.
Where to next? Let's hope the locals are friendly.
Hells. Something just woke up down here.
Be...
More of those wretched things. There's magic keeping this chest sealed. Where to next?
Let's hope the locals are friendly. Be wary.
It's opened.
This one
Wonder
sounds
what's
like
back there.
both flabbergasted and sarcastic at the same time. I think that will become
There's
too
magic keeping
annoying.
this chest sealed. I can.
Where?
What was that?
Let's hope the locals are friendly.
Hells. Something just woke up down here.
Too
It's
apprehensive.
More of those wretched things. There's magic keeping this chest sealed. Where to next? What was that?
Alright, let's go with this one. It's a nice neutral voice, I think. And then you can select all skin colors to add some additional options to how your character looks, and select ones from not the default skin colors for your species. Dungeons & Dragons has switched to heritage, I think, or origin, something like that, instead of calling them races, which is probably a good move. Let's be green. That seems fun. Definitely some scarring. As a Githyanki, we've seen some interstellar wars in the past, so makes sense. Maybe be just a little bit older. So that's like quite wrinkled. There we go. The freckle quantity doesn't do anything with that intensity. I guess they don't really show up against the green. I mean, you can see them a little bit. I need to remember to turn off visible genitals and sex scenes and stuff before we actually get into the game, or YouTube will take down this video. So let's not forget to do that. All right. Also gonna look for a better. I like the angry one. The baffled one, I'm not so sure about. Alright, let's stick with this one for now. And then I want a relatively simple tattoo. This one's kind of nice because it provides a little depth to the eyes without going too crazy, but we want to maybe remove the Githyanki pigmentation to do that. Alright, we don't have the option to do that. See if this is the same face. I don't remember, but I'm going to stick with this one for now. And we could darken this to a very dark green. I guess that's the same green we're using. No, that's... So that's just slightly darker green. I think the black actually works well, but I might want to take the intensity down just a little bit. And that just gives us kind of a nice sort of shadowed effect to the eyes. Design notes with Cephalopocalypse. Looking at these piercings, I do like the ones that provide more than just the base earring. You get an eyebrow ring here. That's just a stud. Alright, that's kind of cool. Let's go with that. Alright. Oh, there's a heterochromia option. I mean, obviously, as a video game protagonist, we need to have heterochromia. We can also get the black pupils. Perfect. Alright, let's do one violet and one... We could also do one black pupil. Maybe if I did a scar over the eye, that would actually be kind of fun. The cold colors against the green. I think I'm going to change the skin color here a little bit just to be a little colder. So right now we're in the very dark green, but we could be a paler green. Or a pale blue of some kind. Yeah, because I think we're going to go with a fairly cold color palette for this character. So we'll do that, and then that's good. And then for the scar, can we get one that goes over the eye? Yeah, so there we get a nice anime over the eye scar, which explains the black pupil. And also do... I could also just do this for the depth to the eyes, and then do something else for the tattoo. Excuse me. The sneeze attacked me in the middle of this. Alright. Well, that sure looks painful to have gotten. I don't think a beholder neck tattoo is... I feel like that would render you an outcast in Githyanki society. But maybe that's where our character is at in her life. And then, what if we do... Okay, definitely not the light colors, but I kind of like it in the dark red here. Or purple. It's a fairly subtle effect at this point. Zoom in on the lip tint. So that's with no... We could do like just a little... Can you do color metallic without color? Yes, you can. Interesting. Because the slightly metallicized lips, I think, are pretty good. Definitely no gloss. That's too... even for an extremely stylized fantasy character, that is too far outside the realm of would be wearable in a dungeon. Alright, let's take a look at hairstyles. I love how many there are, and I like that they have long hair. So many games will have to fake the long hair because they don't want to give it physics. But this game actually gives you options to have even quite long hair, which has some physics, although not a ton. Alright, we're not going to go with the braids, though. This one I don't hate. That's, let me see the manager ringlets. I really enjoy the background music in this character creator also. It's very effective for the trying to get you into the mood of just doing the design work here. Academy dropout? I think not. No. I mean, something swept back is going to work well with just the shape of the Githyanki head, like the nose and ears. And also something relatively martial, I think, is important for the type of character that they're going to be. That's probably too pulled back. What do they look like? Bald. Actually, I kind of like the bald. I don't think we're going to go with that, but... Alright, for now I'm going to stick with this dryad hairstyle, because it's the one I've liked the most. And it at least looks like you could wear it and also expect to get into a fight. And I kind of like the base color, so let's leave that here and see if we can deepen the highlights a little bit. Alright, so the highlights just appear on every second dread. So, again, in keeping with the cold color palette, I think we're going to go with a relatively pale base, maybe pale blue, and then we can do a pale red highlight. And then you can do the graying also in a darker color that's maybe too dark. Do sort of 50% graying just to give it a little more heft. Still not quite the way the graying is set up on this character. So some of the hairstyles, the graying actually works basically as a third highlight color. So I think the base color is too dark is what we're running into here. So let's go with something lighter. And then darken the graying effect, and that will give us more of a color palette. So we could go all the way to like quite purple in here, which I actually don't dislike that much. Or I could go with something a little more like graying into black hair would be kind of interesting as well. Nope, don't like that. That looks like a popsicle. Alright, I kind of like this one. Obviously, we're not going with facial hair. So we've got this, like, relatively cold color palette to work with. Still not 100% on the hair, and one thing that this game does not have is the ability to change your character's appearance after you set it. So you really have to be happy with your character before you go in. So maybe I just actually want a different hairstyle. Alright, that is... Nope. This is just the default Githyanki hairstyle, I think. There's receding hairline. We could also go with green and have it sort of blend into the base of the character. Like if I did this and then did the highlights in some sort of green. But I kind of want the hair to match the eyes, is one of the goals here. Alright, I like the blended effect that we're getting. Let's go with that. Alright, so here we go. For the character's name, we're just going to use Ceph, because Cephalopocalypse is a bit of a mouthful, but this is a nice fantasy-sounding name.
You need a guardian. Choose one.
Alright, and now we need a guardian. So for our guardian, let's go with... yeah, we can go with a drow.
Remarkable.
Follow your instinct.
Yeah, there's only two
Follow
voice
your instincts.
options.
Don't be afraid.
This one comes with built-in freckles, which is interesting. And we'll go with a more traditional look for a drow than we went with for a Githyanki. Maybe a little darker. Ooh, we could have matching scars. Love it. Make them a little more older. Oh yeah, this person looks really angry. And let's get them something mystical. Great. Yeah, I think that looks great, actually. Eyes, they don't get to be heterochromic because they're not the protagonist of this particular anime. Black pupils, though. I like that. Yeah, this looks like someone who's going to try to tempt you into doing bad stuff. Alright. I like how high that hairstyle gets. This one also. That looks like a lot of work to maintain. That looks like even more work to maintain. Alright, let's just go with, like, sort of standard long hair. And I'm gonna darken it just a little bit. And they put a small amount of highlighting in it. Alright. Awesome. Okay, so there we go. We've got our character and our guardian. Now we're back with this guy. I have a feeling this guy is about to have a bad day. His worst day at work since the time that everyone forgot to make a second pot of coffee. I like the way they've done that little gesture so that you can tell that he's brain linked with the ship. So he can feel the pain of the ship as they tear the tentacle off and he grabs his arm. It then makes you imagine that this has to hurt an awful lot. I also really like the design touch of all the spit in the dragon's mouth. I know that's a weird thing to say, but it really sticks out to me as some great animation. I also really appreciate these 3 spires evoking the 3 in the logo of Baldur's Gate 3. It's a cool visual callback to what you'd have seen on the store page. Hey, I know that guy.
Finally free. I must find my kin.
Alright, well I know where one of them is. Alright, my friends, so that is going to do it for character creation for this Ironman playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3. I hope you enjoyed half an hour of color theory. This was really a bonus episode. The gameplay, of course, is going to start next episode, and please do tune in and join me as we run through this strategy-focused Ironman playthrough. Thanks as always, my friends, for watching, and feel free, of course, to leave comments, subscribe to my channel. If you hit the dumb little notification thing, YouTube will actually tell you when the next video goes up, so that could be a useful thing to do. And I will catch you next time. Cheers, GG.